guys, Phil Massaro, author and president of Massaro Ballistic Laboratories. Today we're going to talk about a three-gun battery. Three guns you'd really need to hunt the whole wide world. What I get often is, I get emails, I get phone calls, Facebook messages about caliber choice, rifle style, things like that, that the customer or friend or client or whatever may say, look, I want this to do that or that to do this. And what we're going to do is discuss the three-gun battery that I use personally to hunt the whole wide world, from varmints right on up to African dangerous game. So sit down, grab some popcorn, and let's talk. Let's talk about our light rifle, the varmint, maybe even into the deer class rifle. Depending on where you live and the size of the deer or maybe pronghorn antelope, you may choose something different than I did. But here in New York, our deer tend to get big, and I'm talking, we have several that are over 200 pounds on the hoof. So my particular light rifle has been chosen for our long coyote and fox seasons. I have a blast in the wintertime going out with a caller and spending time trying to outsmart coyotes, which are possibly one of the hardest game animals I've ever encountered. So my particular choice is the 22-250 Remington. This is my Ruger Model 77 Mark II. It wears a sporter weight barrel, bolt action, 3-position safety. What I chose for glass is the Leupold the VX3 6.5 to 20 with an adjustable objective, which allows me to reach out and touch somebody in focus, and yet, at 6.5 power, I can still make the close-up shots in the woods. The 22-250 is nothing more and nothing less than the 250 3000 Savage neck down to hold 22 caliber bullets. My only particular gripe about it is that its rate of twist, which is usually 1 in 14, precludes me from using the 72 grain or heavier 22 caliber bullets. So for me, it's really not a deer or antelope rifle, although out west I know a lot of folks that use this gun with good effect. But on coyotes, the 22 caliber possesses enough killing energy to buck the wind and make, clean, humane kills out to 400 and change, and yet at the same time, it's light enough where the recoil doesn't give me a flinch. For instance, we were out in Wyoming and they had a jackrabbit population explosion. We spent the afternoon with a bucket of ammo, literally, taking care of the jackrabbits out on the prairie. So it's a great blend for me. And look, if the 17s are your game and you're a varmint specialist, so be it. I mean, I know there's no flies on that. Or if you want something to do your pronghorn deer light, light duty, and you choose one of the 6 mils, say a 243 Winchester or a 6mm Remington, God bless you. Even the 257 Roberts, the 257 Weatherby, a 250 3000 2506 will work. It's a light enough recoil for you, but for me, what works is the 22-250. I'm a huge fan. Your medium rifle is going to be the rifle that the average hunter reaches into the cabinet for 99 times out of 100. There's no two ways about it. Unless you're a specialized varmint guy or unless you're a professional hunter in Africa, your medium bore is going to be your go-to big game season gun. They generally range from the 6.5 millimeters, we're talking 264 Win Mag, maybe 6.5 Swede, 260 Remington, up through the 338s and even a 35 Wellin. Generally, the most popular bores in America, and I would probably say around the world, are both the 7mm and the 308. Simply put, because they work. They offer a very wide range of bullets. They are shootable. They're effective from even grizzly bears on down through to pronghorn antelope. Your choice doesn't matter to me. If you're a Jack O'Connor fan and the 270 Winchester appeals to you, with today's bullets, you can really get away with a lot more than you could 50 years ago. If you're a 338 fan, there's some awesome light for caliber bullets that you can really take that 338 out into the field and use effectively. What I chose is probably middle of the road. It might be a little heavy for recoil for the average hunter, but the 300 Winchester Magnum works for me. Why, you ask? And I'm glad you did. I grew up shooting a 308 Winchester. My first moose hunt in Quebec made me feel incorrectly I would add, that I was outdistanced. So I came home and bought a 300 Winchester and found that it is possibly one of the most inherently accurate cartridges available. I mean, the Marine Corps sniper switched to a 300 Winchester, so that tells you something of the level of accuracy if the U.S. military believes in it. My particular medium rifle is something that I stumbled into used. It's a Winchester Model 70, what they call a stainless classic, 26-inch barrel, which may be long for some of you guys, but doesn't hinder me in the woods. It's got a synthetic stock, a stainless barreled action. The trigger has been adjusted to be proper, and I've topped it with the best glass I could afford. This is the new Leupold VX6, which has a 6x magnification range. It's a 2 to 12 model, so at 2 power I can shoot a grizzly off my shoelaces if needs be, or I can hit the distant deer, elk, caribou, or whatever at 12 power. It works for me. It's accurate. It has a bullet range that works effectively from 125 grains, which I've used on coyotes, up through 220 grains, which I use around here, but we'll get to that in a minute. Essentially, the 165, 180 grain is the bullet you're going to choose for most of your work. The 300 Winchester is a neck down and shortened variety of the 375 Holland & Holland. It fits in a 30-06 length action. It doesn't really burn a lot of powder. I mean, I think the biggest powder charge I use is 78 grains of some really slow burning stuff. Being a hand loader, I can adjust the load to my particular hunting situation. I do a lot of hunting in the local Catskills and Adirondacks, where in the hemlock woods, shots range from 25 yards to 100 at best. I custom hand loaded some 220 grain round nose down to the old 300 Holland & Holland specification of 2,450 feet per second. Accuracy runs minute of angle. It's a very effective round nose bullet, almost make an animal shudder upon impact. And the beauty, though, of the 300 Winchester is its versatility. I can use 150 grain monometal bullets and you know, rev the speed up to hit long range whitetails or antelope without making a bloody mess of the animal. I can use and have used 200 grain Swift A-frames in Africa on animals the size of kudu gemsbuck, you know, what have you, the larger plains game, and wouldn't hesitate to use either of those loads on elk or moose here in the States. If you're a sheep hunter, or if you hunt the Arizonan deserts and you want something really flat shooting and long range, it's going to hit hard, the 300 Winchester's your baby. Not to say that your 270, your 30-06, your 308 won't work. They do. I mean, it's the shooter, not so much the gun. But for me, I appreciate the attributes of the 300 Winchester. You know, it's an inherently accurate cartridge. It does exactly what I ask of it. The gun fits me, which I think is the most important thing, and it's got a fantastic piece of glass, which is, you know, it has a variable power range to do everything I need it to. So in choosing a medium bore, number one, make sure you can shoot it. Make sure it's a caliber that isn't going to, you know, loosen your fillings or detach your retina. Everyone's got a different level of recoil tolerance. For me, the 300 Winchester doesn't bother me. There's been some 300 Weatherbys that do, and 340 Weatherbys that are just damn near brutal. But this is, for me, the blend of the shootability and wide bullet choice of 308 calibers in a gun that fits me, that's, you know, a rather impervious design to weather, and yet has glass that I can use in a very effective, you know, different choice of scenarios. Ah, the heavyweights. These are a particular favorite of mine. I am a huge fan of big bore rifles. If you're the kind of guy who ever considers Africa to be on your plate, then you really want to look at a heavyweight that's in 375 bore or bigger for the following reasons. Number one, it's really the effective minimum. And there's those in the 9.3 camp or the 358 camp or even the 338 camp that might argue with me. But generally, the African governmentally accepted minimum for dangerous game is 375. I'm a huge fan of the 375 Holland & Holland. I've used one effectively in Africa and pretty well across North America in places you probably even shouldn't have used one, but I chose differently. What I chose is what I consider to be a real winner. I chose the 416 Remington. The 416 Remington is simply the 375 Holland & Holland case at 2.85 inches, necked up to hold bullets of 416 diameter. They're readily makeable from 375 brass, etc., etc. I looked at the Remington package for this reason. It burns 80% of the powder that the 416 Rigby does. It's houseable in a magnum length receiver, doesn't require the large ring, etc. What I got was a Winchester Model 70 Safari Express. Let's just make sure we're unloaded. In one of the last New Haven, Connecticut production rifles. It's a David Miller design stock. David Miller's a famed gun maker from Arizona. Fits me like a glove. I topped it with a Leupold VX3. You can tell I'm a Leupold fan. 1.5 to 5 in the QR or quick release mounts. So in the event of an emergency, I have handy, ready access to remove the scope and access my iron sights. The scope goes back on quickly and returns to 0 within 1/2 inch. And again, and I can't stress this point enough, this gun fits me. I shoot it well, it shoots well, and with hand loads and even only a 5-power scope will deliver less than minute of angle 3-shot groups. I've used it in Africa. It's been the only gun I've taken on the last 2 safaris. I've killed Cape Buffalo, Liechtenstein's Hartebeest, Puku, Warthog, Bushbuck with it. I chose the 400 grain Swift A-frame. And let me qualify it. If you're a fan of the 416 Rigby, if you like the 458 Winchester, the 458 Lot, or even the 375 Holland & Holland, there's nothing wrong with your choice. But for me, this 416 delivers the consummate blend of horsepower, speed, and striking energy. The buffalo, my wife and I, we went on our honeymoon. When we hunted buffalo, the buffalo that I shot went down and piled up in less than 50 yards. We gave him one more to pay the insurance. Both bullets were expanded at 95% weight retention, crumpled up against the offside skin, and even the professional hunter was amazed at the performance. So pick yourself a rifle that has adequate capabilities, and I'm talking 375 Holland, or maybe the 375 Remington Ultra Mag if you like a little more speed, or the 378 Weatherby. One of the 416s, 416 Ruger, 416 Rem, 416 Rigby is a classic choice, or the 458s. But make sure you can load it versatile, with enough versatility so that you can get a bit of range should a small antelope present itself while stalking bigger game, and yet enough horsepower so that, God forbid, you wound your buffalo, you wound an elephant, you can settle the argument quickly. Double rifles are great. For me, this is at about 1/8 the cost of a good double rifle. For a man of limited means, I prefer to spend the money on safari and not collecting guns. So guys, in conclusion, when you choose your rifle battery, minimize the overlap. Look at your bullet choices, look at your bullet weights, find out what's going to serve you best. If you're a varmint hunter, choose a dedicated varmint rifle. If you're only a deer hunter, find something that's going to, double duty. Again, the 6 mils, the 257 diameter, the 6.5s. When you find your elk gun, be it 338 through, down to the 6.5s, wisely choose your bullets. And if Africa's on your plate, pick a big bore that serves you well. Thank you for joining me. Phil Massaro. Enjoy yourself. Cheers.